Many times when we think of racism, we tend to think of direct actions of people of a dominant group towards a subordinate group. These actions tend to cause physical, mental, and emotional harm. But perhaps one of the most subtle forms of racism is environmental racism. Environmental racism is the way which minority groups are burdened with a disproportionate number of hazards, including toxic waste facilities, garbage dumps, and other sources of environmental pollution. This type of racism is quietly practiced through the passing of bills and laws that allow companies such as coal plants, landfills, and toxic waste facilities to be built in places that are disproportionately in areas where low income and people of color live. These facilities fill the air with harmful contaminants and lead to health issues. But what does this really look like? Environmental racism can be seen in people drinking contaminated groundwater, children playing on school playgrounds next to a plant producing toxic emissions, people being exposed to asbestos and lead in older homes and schools, or corporations attempting to build nuclear waste dumps on protected native lands because those lands are not protected by tough state environmental regulations. Coal power plants are some of the worst offenders, and according to a recent NAACP report, 39% of people that live within 3 miles of a coal power plant are people of color, and those coal plants that are in urban areas are overwhelmingly placed in communities of color. Worldwide, the dumping of toxic waste in developing countries is prevalent due to lower environmental standards in developing countries, the power of multinational corporations, the lack of power in developing countries, and putting corporate profit before people. E-waste, or the dumping of discarded and used electronics, is causing a global concern too. 20 to 50 million tons of e-waste are generated each year globally, and approximately 80% of e-waste is exported to Asia each year. The Environmental Protection Agency, or EPA, estimates that only 15 to 20% of e-waste is recycled yearly. Examples of health issues related to environmental racism include asthma and respiratory illnesses, lead poisoning, and higher rates of lung cancer in those living within close proximity to coal-producing plants. The highest rates of asthma tend to be in low socioeconomic communities and communities of color. Asthma results from exposure to air pollution, cigarette smoke, dust, and pesticides. According to the Center for Disease Control, or CDC, asthma is most prevalent among multiracial populations at 14.8%, Puerto Rican Hispanics at 14.2%, non-Asian blacks at 9.5%, while asthma rates among non-Hispanic whites is at 7.8%. When it comes to exposure to air pollution that can contribute to asthma and other respiratory illnesses, the CDC found that racial and ethnic minority groups who tend to live in urban areas experience greater disparity in illness. Toxic facilities tend to be built in environments that have little resources and political power to protect their communities. The Environmental Protection Agency is meant to help protect the environment and people from the harmful effects of facilities, but has proven to be unresponsive. According to the Center for Public Integrity, more than 9 of every 10 times that communities have turned to it for help, the EPA has either rejected or dismissed their Title VI complaints. Title VI is part of the 1964 Civil Rights Act that states public funds cannot be used to encourage discrimination. In the EPA's 22-year history of processing almost 300 environmental discrimination complaints, the office has never once made a formal finding of a Title VI violation, and 95% of the time, communities of color that live in communities with polluting facilities have their filed claims of civil rights violations denied by the Environmental Protection Agency. This is a complicated picture, and our dependence on energy production and electronics makes it difficult to walk away from. But that shouldn't mean that disproportionate numbers of lower socioeconomic groups and people of color should have to pay the higher price. So, what other examples of environmental racism can you think of that impact you or your community? What is the long-term impact on society when groups of people continue to experience environmental racism? And how does our current lifestyle contribute to environmental racism? Is change possible?
Nationally, the facilities where we dump our garbage and process dangerous chemicals tend to be located in poor and minority communities. the people who live there have little or no protection from the industries around them, and things could get worse. So there's this idea of environmental justice. It's pretty simple. Communities shouldn't be forced to deal with more pollution because they belong to a certain race, national origin, or income bracket. Yet America has struggled over the years to implement any serious policy that actually protects these communities. So let's lay out the ways the government has failed them.
We will not allow Warren County to become a dump site.
The fight for environmental justice took off in 1982, when residents of Warren County, North Carolina mounted mass demonstrations against a plan to dump contaminated soil in a landfill in their community. The EPA investigated 4 similar landfills in southern states and found that they were all located in Black or low-income neighborhoods. In 1987, the United Church of Christ Racial Justice Commission found that around the country, hazardous waste facilities were more likely to be located in mostly minority communities. Amid mounting proof, the federal government was forced to act.
George Herbert Walker Bush.
So in 1992, President George H.W. Bush founded the Office of Environmental Justice inside the EPA. 2 years later, President Bill Clinton signed an executive order requiring federal agencies to consider environmental justice in all of their policies, as well as extending civil rights protection to environmental discrimination. But Congress never passed a bill to make Clinton's executive order law. Then came George W. Bush. His administration shifted the focus of the Office of Environmental Justice from protecting low-income and minority communities to all people, leaving vulnerable populations without a federal environmental advocate.
80% of New Orleans, including much of downtown, is underwater.
Under Bush, many environmental civil rights claims were rejected or delayed for years. In 2009, after President Barack Obama's election, his administration recommitted to environmental justice.
Generally speaking, in this country, a lot of environmentally problematic facilities tend to be located in places where poor folks live.
Yet, during the 2 years Democrats controlled the House, the Senate, and the White House, they didn't file a single bill focused on strengthening environmental justice protections. Passing major environmental legislation faded further when Republicans took control of Congress in the 2010 midterm elections. Now, President Donald J. Trump is making good on his vow to weaken the EPA.
Environmental protection, what they do is a disgrace. Every week they come out with new regulations. They're making it
impossible. Who's going to protect the environment?
We'll be fine with the environment. We can leave a little bit.
This budget, a 31% cut to the EPA, $2.6 billion cut away from the EPA. That's what the president wants.
As the EPA loses funding and regulations are rolled back, vulnerable communities may very likely fall through the cracks. I'm Talia Buford. I'll be covering these communities and digging into systemic environmental injustice. If you have something to tell me, email me at talia.buford@propublica.org.
We see climate change as a security issue, as much as a human rights issue. And, well, of course, it's an environment issue, but mainly it's a human rights and a security issue.
gaariyan waa abaarsadeen 4 sano abaar 2 sano abaar gaariyan naga abaarsadeen marka qolna waa la galay midkii meesha mataal saasan soo qornay
magacay waa la batul koob 7 sano jira عندهم فلان جرنا كبير أنت عبن جرنا دابا جريان gaari soo raacnay magaalada jilwaan ku soo qaacnay
leeyahay baawar kula karwaay anta madaan kooy raashin ayaa riisi raashinka yaraad heedi walaayna siida mayna siyaw
deegaankeedan uu yahay xagar meel u dhaxayso bo'aal iyo afmadow oo bo'aal hoos tagta waxaan lahaa xoola lo ilaa 50 meeyo ari ilaa 40 meeyo oo ma aragtay abaarihii haddeeda inaga hiigsatay
dalka gaaraan male qudaartana isku abuurday duurkan baa walana kufsade kasteed dhabaataas asaasay nahay walka aroordaan male dalaalo ka aroordaan raashin nacaan faamayna siyaw wal yaro oo seem qabiil leena siya saliido la niyaraay raashinka dhanba afgambinina dhakaay saabun mayna siyaay tayaa uma awurna siyaay male
পানি যখন আসছিল তখন মনে হয় যে ঘর দরজা ভেঙে নিয়ে চলে যাচ্ছে এমন করে শাঁ শাঁ করে চলে আসলো পানি আর একটা ঢেউ দেয় টিনের চাল টাল সব ভেঙে নিয়ে চলে যায় প্রতিবেশীরা তখন আওতাস করতেছে যে কোথায় যাব আল্লাহ কোন জায়গায় যাই উঠবো এই ছাড়া আর কোনো গতি ছিল না আমাদের গ্রামাঞ্চলে তো দালান বাড়ি নেই যে সে জায়গায় যাই উঠবে 2 মাস রান্না খাওয়া সব কিছু নৌকাই করা হয়েছে নৌকায় ছিল ঘর বাড়ি কিছু নেই তা কোথায় থাকবো তাই আর কি নৌকায় থাকা হয়েছিল নৌকায় থাকি যান বাঁচানি হয়েছে
ওখানে একতলা একটা বিল্ডিং ছিল একটা মন্দির ছিল ওখান থেকে পশ্চিম দিক সরিয়ে একটা প্রাইমারি স্কুল পাশে একটা কালী মন্দির ওগুলো সব নদীর সঙ্গে বিলীন হয়ে গেছে পানি ওঠা নামায় এই পাশে দক্ষিণ দিকে আয়লার আগে দেখা যেত লিজ বাড়ি ছিল আমাদের এলাকায় মাছের চাষ ছিল কমিশনে মাছ টাছ মেরে বেড়াতাম তাতে বেশ ইনকাম ছিল ভালো এবং ফাঁকে খেলাধুলো বিভিন্ন জায়গায় গান বাজনা হয়তো শুনে বেড়াতাম অন্যরকম একটা আনন্দের ভিতরে বসবাস করে আসছিলাম জোয়ার বাটা শুরু হয়ে গেল কারণ ভাঙা তো বাদ হলো না নার কারণে এলাকা শুধু পানি আর পানি ঝড়ের কারণে ঘর বাড়ি যা ছিল ওই পানির সঙ্গে সব বিলীন হয়ে বেরোয় চলে গেলো বাটার জলে বেরোয় চলে গেলে আর কি সাদা মাঠ দেখা যাচ্ছে লোকজন হাবুডুবু করে সব সাঁতরে মাত্রে যে যেমনি পারে বাঁচিয়ে সব রাস্তাঘাটে উঠে গেল গাছ গোছালি মরিয়ে আস্তে আস্তে পরিষ্কার হয়ে আসতে লাগবে কিছুদিন পর লবণ পানি ঢোকার পরে এই মিষ্টি পানির যে গাছটা ছিল এই গাছগুলো সব আস্তে আস্তে মরা শুরু হয়ে গেল 24 ঘন্টায় তো 2 বার জোয়ার বাটা হচ্ছে